What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. Today, me and Tuck want to share with you 5 crops that we would never plant again. Let's go! Throughout the last 10 years, me and Tuck have grown about every edible that you could possibly grow in Zone 7A. So the idea for this video is to share with you some of the edibles that we think are not worth planting. We don't want you to waste your time, space, or money growing some of these edibles because even if you do get a harvest from them, sometimes it can be a bit of a letdown. The first crop that I would never plant again is the Flying Dragon Hardy Orange Tree. I don't know if I really would call this a tree as much as it's a bush. It grows like a bush and it has so many spiky thorns that the whole entire thing is just essentially one giant thorn. If you fall into this thing, you will have a very, very bad day. One thing I noticed about this tree is I've had it for a number of years and it's never produced that much fruit. So last year it had a good amount of flowers, but the reason it produced a good amount of fruit is because I went around and hand pollinated every single flower. This year I didn't hand pollinate it and we were only left with like 1 or 2, maybe 3 fruits. So that's a little upsetting, I guess. The other thing about it is, even when I did get the fruit last year, I had a bunch of fruit, and when I cut into it, you can't even eat it when it's raw like this in its natural state. It's way too bitter, it's way too sour. So in order to eat it, you have to process it in like jams or jellies and stuff. So that's not really something that I want. I like eating my fruit fresh, right off the plant. That's how you do it when you grow this stuff in the backyard, in my opinion. When it comes to growing the Flying Dragon Orange Tree, I think it's more about bragging rights, so that you could say something like, I grew an orange tree in New Jersey and got fruit from it. But I don't know if I could truly call this an orange tree. Maybe it's like a distant, unloved, like twice removed relative or something, because I don't think I'd put it in the same exact family as the orange tree. The other thing is, with spikes like all of these, if I'm gonna grow something that has a lot of spikes on it, I wanna make sure I get some good fruit out of it, like raspberries. Yeah, they have some spikes, but you get the delicious fruit from it. Or I'd rather grow something like roses. Yeah, you have all the spikes and the thorns from the roses, but you get beautiful flowers from it. When it comes to the Flying Dragon, I think the dragon kind of tries to fly, but ends up flat on its face. The second crop that I would never plant again is the autumn olive. One thing you'll notice is how messy it is back here. I'm in the chicken pen, and the thing is, the autumn olives, they just never get me too excited to get out here. I'm never like, I gotta get up, get outside, prune my autumn olives, make sure they look all good so that I can get amazing harvest from them. I just don't look up to the harvest that much. That's one of the things that I don't like about them. There are a number of other things that I do not like about them. The other one is that these plants are in the Elaeagnus family, which is nice because they're nitrogen fixers, so they grow really fast. The bad thing about that is that they are invasive because they shoot out a lot of suckers underneath the ground and can really take over an area. So that's super inconvenient. Do not let the name fool you though. These are nothing like actual olives that you would grow. This is the autumn olive. Again, it's in the Elaeagnus family. If you want to grow something similar to this, I would definitely go for its cousin, the gumi. The gumi taste way better. You can eat them fresh, and they actually have a nice sweet flavor to them. The autumn olives, on the other hand, nah, I don't think I'll ever plant those again. Before I move on to the next crop, I wanted to first mention that there's only a few days to grab the summer merch. So if you want to get some, check it out now at jamesprigioni.com. The third crop that I would never plant again is the aronia. Also known as the chokeberry. These things are so astringent that you can't eat them fresh off the plant. They'll cause you to choke up a little bit. That's probably how they get their name. So this plant is decent when it comes to processing. You could do like some jams, jellies, or like make a wine out of them. But personally, if I'm gonna make a jam, jelly, or a wine, I'd rather use something like raspberries or grapes or even elderberries because they have that nice medicinal quality to them. Personally for me, I love plants that you can come out and eat them fresh right off the bush because that's like the great benefit of growing things at home, in my opinion, to be able to eat them fresh just like that. So this plant could be a decent plant for edible landscaping if you're into that, but it also wants to expand a decent amount. So if you're really into processing things, maybe this is something you want to get in, but personally for me, I'm not going to grow this one again. The fourth crop that I would never plant again is actually one that I was excited about for a number of years. This one is the jujube. Originally I thought this one was a winner, but after a few years I've kind of changed my mind about the whole thing. First of all, the tree grows relatively large and it grows in a bit of an irregular shape. It wants to be a bush and a tree at the same time, it seems like. Also, it's got a good amount of thorns on it, so you want to be careful with this one when you're pruning, especially with your eyes and stuff. Another thing about the jujube plant is that the trees are actually relatively expensive. So I looked online, a jujube tree is about $65, while an apple tree that's like 5 to 6 feet is only about $50. So in my opinion, I'd rather grow something like an apple. The thing about this fruit is it actually has like an apple-like flavor to it. The flavor isn't bad, they're relatively sweet, but in my opinion, I'd rather just have some fresh apples from my apple tree in the back. A good thing about this tree is that they're actually pretty drought tolerant and pretty winter hardy, so they're relatively easy to grow. But again, they do take up a lot more space than I originally was thinking. A cool thing about this fruit is that you can leave the fruit on the tree to dry. They call it the Chinese date. It'll dry up almost like a date would, but in my opinion, they don't taste as good as dates when they're dried up. So I'd rather just have a date. So it's not something that I would ever plant again. Although it's fun to plant, if I had a very lot of space, I would do it, but with how much space I have, the limited space, I'm never planting this one again. The fifth crop that I would never plant again is the goji berry. Now, I know I'm gonna get a little pushback on this one, and I assume I'm going to get a little bit of pushback on the jujube too. But what I'm trying to do is save you guys space, time, and money. I do not want you getting a harvest and being let down by that harvest, especially with how long some of these plants take to actually get fruit. So, the goji berry I've grown in the past a number of times. I don't even have actually any plants growing because I removed them because I really just have a disdain for them. Some people said that they like the taste of the fruit. Personally, I don't. It tastes like a really bad tomato to me. It's in the nightshade family. People also say that you can dry the fruit out and it tastes a lot better, but now we're just going back to processing a lot of the fruit, which is something that I don't like to do. I'd rather go out and eat the fruit right off the plant. And my goji berries, they're so finicky. Sometimes they want it to flower a lot one year, the next year they wouldn't flower, maybe 2 years of no fruit. I couldn't be bothered by them. So what I suggest you definitely grow instead of the goji berry are ground cherries. So ground cherries are also in the nightshade family, and they have a similar flavor to the goji berries, but I think they taste a lot better. They're ready when they fall to the ground like this, or just fall off the plant just like that. Again, same family, but these are only annuals too, so you can get the fruit from them very fast. They're not invasive, they don't take over a lot of space, and I think it's just an excellent alternative to the goji berry. Let me try one of these ground cherries. Yeah. Incredible sweet pop at the start, a little bit of that nightshady tomato flavor at the end, but worlds and worlds better than the goji berry in my opinion. Before I let you go, I just want to mention a few things. The first one is that this is just my opinion on things. So out there's a lot of people who want to paint a beautiful picture of these kinds of fruits, how everyone should be growing them, how everyone needs them, but in reality, they're probably just not things that the average gardener has to get into the ground. I think they're probably rare for a reason. So I made a similar video to this like 2 years ago, but since then, some of my ideas have changed, so I had to update the list a little bit. I removed the kohlrabi, and I also removed the Armenian cucumbers. One of the reasons I removed them was because they're only annuals. So I wanted to focus mainly on perennials here because I don't want you guys planting these perennials and having them take like 2, 3, 4 years to get fruit. Then you realize you don't want them. That's what happened to me on some of those. When it comes to some of the annuals like the kohlrabi, just because I don't like it, I don't think it's something you shouldn't try. You should try it. It's only an annual and it's not gonna take up that much space. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to update this list. The goal is to provide as much value for you as possible, to save you time, to save you money, and to make sure you get the most out of the little space that you do have. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I just realized Tuck wasn't in this video that much, so we're gonna get him a little water here. If you guys love seeing the boss in the videos, make sure you spam the hearts for the boss and hit the subscribe button. This guy's such a beast. He's really starting to get out here now because the last few days or something or so, the weather has really changed. It's got much cooler out, and I feel like we've transitioned into like kind of more of that fall kind of weather. One thing that's been plaguing the garden still is Roger Rabbit. He's been running me around like crazy, eating all my stuff, snacking on everything. We're gonna have to eradicate him from the garden, but that should be a pretty fun process with the boss. We'll open the gates and then try to chase him out the front yard because the rabbit can't get out. Because it's gotten so big, it's grown up in the garden that it can't fit back out of the garden, which is pretty funny. Before I let you go, I want to mention to grab some of the merch down at jamesprigioni.com. There are only a few days left to get it, then it's gone for good. I also wanted to mention a thank you for our new member for Team Grow, Alan Leishman. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow, Alan. Thanks for contributing. Thanks for making, like I always say, all of this possible. Me and Tuck mean it from the bottom of our heart. Let's get one more quick shot of the beast. Look at this guy, so handsome, so good. Always planting his cucumbers in the background, getting ready for next season. So we hope you enjoyed the video, got some value out of it. Me and Tuck had an absolute blast out here like we always do. James and Tuck will be back at you again real soon. We out.